a good news. So let's kickstart the session as I cross fingers that you're going to be with me all the way up until 9 a.m. We have so much in store for you, ranging from candid discussions that revolve around the stories that are making headlines, and importantly, we delve deep into understanding the life and the lying of family planning. Most of the ladies will resonate to this, and actually men too, because yes, there is family planning for men, but most of them do not want to take that direction. So it's always the lady that is left to carry the burden. Is it fair? Is it unfair? Is it healthy for them? Is it unhealthy? If it's healthy, what do they do? Those are the things that we'll be touching on later on, and that is at around 8 all the way to 9 a.m. But first things first, we go through the newspapers of the day, we go through the stories of the day, and we have that current affairs segment at 7 a.m. So welcome on board once again, and let's kick the ball rolling as the stalemate at KEMSA continues to take twists. The Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, appearing before the National Assembly held a committee, said that he has never stepped at KEMSA premises physically. Health PS Susan Mochache, who was also grilled by the Health Committee, said that there is no actual loss of public funds at KEMSA. Joash Onsare reports.
Health CS Mutahi Kagwe and the Principal Secretary Susan Mochache were pressed hard to shed light on the KEMSA scandal. Kagwe defending himself against claims that he manipulated COVID-19 tender awards at the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority KEMSA through calls, text messages or emails to top officials.
Can I state for the record that I am actually feeling bad to say this because it is something that I should not say. But I've just been so caught up with the management of COVID-19 that I have not personally ever been to KEMSA. Forget about working with a general or brigadier or even my PS. I hear it is my PS and I who work constantly. Mheshimiwa, read my lips through this through this mask. I have never been to KEMSA.
The suspended CEO Jonah Manjari, in his submission on KEMSA looting last week, said CS Kagwe and PS Susan Mochache influenced the decision-making in the procurement process, a statement Kagwe dismissed, saying he has never stepped physically in KEMSA. Kagwe has dared Manjari or any official who had received such instructions to show proof.
The only thing to say is that usually when you are managing an institution, there are a number of issues that can be challenging. A, if, for example, if you go over budget of an item. B, just inefficiency. The issue of efficiency is also part of management rating. It is not just a question of being corrupt or not being corrupt. There is also the question of general efficiency in management, and that counts for a lot as well. So,
Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache has accused KEMSA of bypassed the Ministry of Health in the procurement and the expenditure involved on the PPEs. Mochache, however, says all procurement for the commodities was done by KEMSA as opposed to what has been reported.
You can see now here KEMSA is coming to the reality of overcommitting, and now they have committed up to 5 billion. And Chair, I want to also be very categorical to say that the ministry was not aware of, that such a commitment had been made. And perhaps that's why the letter had gone directly to the National Treasury and not through the ministry. So, Chair, you can see there the next letter is a letter that actually had originated from KEMSA to the CS of the National Treasury, seeking for finances to be able to meet this cost that they had incurred of 5.14 billion.
Meanwhile, Transport CS Chris Obure, who was representing CS James Masharia, was dismissed due to lack of a detailed report. The Ministry of Transport will submit its report on the clearance of Jack Ma's shipment from JKIA on Thursday. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
Now, thousands of private school teachers are scrambling for at least 5,000 opportunities recently advertised by the Teachers Service Commission, TSC, and Rin Kilemi interacted with some of these teachers who are hopeful that the applications will see the light of day.
At Gentrix Omondi's home, a teacher in one of the private schools in Nairobi, we find her trying to submit her application on the Teachers Service Commission portal, which had recently posted at least 5,000 vacancies for teachers in both primary and secondary schools.
I'm really happy that TSC has advertised, and unlike the other years, they are doing replacements and new recruitment at the same time. So I'm really glad, and I'm hoping that it will go through this time around, because I left school in 2014, college 2014. Since then, I have tried in vain, and this is the third time I'm trying. So since yesterday night, I've been trying to apply, but it hasn't gone through. Probably because there is a lot of traffic on the portal.
Just like Gentrix Omondi and many other teachers in the country, Jennifer Nzao has also submitted her application for the job on the TSC portal. This being the fourth time she is submitting her applications.
The farthest that I've gone is just the verification of documents, and they just go through your documents, and then they have like I don't know if I should call it a marking scheme, whereby they give you points according to your age, then the year that you graduated from college, and the points that you scored in college.
In the selection process, the selection panel shall harmonize the list of applicants with that of the TSC sub-county director and conduct interviews for those who meet the criteria. The county director should note any inconsistencies, make decisions based on the guidelines, and advise the applicants and the commission accordingly. Applicants shall present themselves in person to the selection panel, and the panel shall score each applicant based on the selection score guide. But according to these teachers, the criteria used in the selection process for qualified TSC members is not effective.
I think TSC should, as a commission, should change its way of doing things. Truth is, there is a biting shortage in schools. There are lots of teachers out here. As a teacher, I feel aggrieved by the fact that 6 years later, I have tried to apply many times, and I'm sure there are some of my colleagues that are going through the same thing. So talking about a situation whereby we have this pandemic, most of us have had problems. We've not been able to pay bills.
I don't know the criteria that they use, but I don't think it's fair. Because if it were fair, I think people from years like 2011, 2010 wouldn't be struggling in private schools right now.
NAT Secretary General Wilson Sossion, however, says that Teachers Service Commission has failed in playing its role fully since the teachers' shortage in the country continues to affect learning in the country.
Upungufu ya walimu ni 1,100 katika shule zote za umma katika Jamhuri ya Kenya. Na ile imekuwa ikifanyika ni kuajiri kila mwaka 5,000 ama 10,000. Ikilinganishwa na upungufu, hilo haliwezi kusuluhisha kamwe. Na upungufu ya walimu ni hatari sana katika jamhuri. Na kwa hivyo, hiyo program imekuwa ikiendelea katika tume ni kinyume cha sheria na matakwa ya wananchi wa Kenya.
Sossion has further criticized TSC, saying the commission has failed to use its mandate to serve its people.
Tume ya kuajiri walimu iwajibike na ijue kwamba uhuru yake ni uwezo ya kuajiri walimu ya kutosha na kuwatuma kwa mashule. Lakini sio kutumia nguvu zake kugandamiza wale walimu tayari wameajiriwa ama kufurugana na chama cha walimu. Uhuru wa tume ni kuwa na uwezo ya kuajiri walimu wanaotakikana na kutuma kwa mashule.
The quest by private school teachers to work under the Teachers Service Commission is evident, even as most of them struggle to make ends meet amidst the coronavirus pandemic. And Rin Kilemi for TV 47.
And meanwhile, President Uhuru Kenyatta has told the global community that Kenya will lead the Eastern Africa counter-terrorism efforts by working with regional governments and partners. The president has reiterated that Kenya will leverage on its membership in the U.S. Security Council to contribute more to global peace and security. President Kenyatta was speaking during virtual meeting at the Kaaba process on COVID-19 convened by King Abdullah II of Jordan.
It is therefore my hope that we will identify and propose workable solutions to fill the gaps in pandemic response capacities and exchange views on the emerging security threats and opportunities, as well as opportunities associated with the pandemic. The pandemic has impacted regional and global peace and security efforts due to the fact that attention is increasingly being devoted to domestic and national pandemic response efforts and diverted from peace and security spheres. The pandemic has also disrupted diplomatic efforts towards regional crisis management and conflict resolution endeavors, thereby creating the potential for escalating tensions and the reversal of the gains made over the years in peace building. The pandemic, coupled with the globalization of terrorism and violent extremism, has posed an even greater threat to international peace and security. Several countries continue to experience protracted armed conflict, including from activities by non-state armed groups, as well as a marked humanitarian crisis, often with a significant trans-border and global dimension, as well as facing the ever-present threats of terrorism.
Well, the United Nations Security Council, as opposed to the U.S. Security Council, apologies for that. Now, moving on, long-distance drivers at the Busia border are complaining of long queues during the COVID-19 testing. The drivers claim that the queues have been caused by their counterparts from Uganda flocking at the Kenyan side due to high charges in Uganda.
Congestion. Long overstretching queues of more than 60 kilometers in Busia is caused by what drivers say is high charges of testing COVID-19 by the Ugandan government, an issue that has made them take the tests in Alupe Hospital in Busia before proceeding to the neighboring country.
For 5 to 6 days. Hakuna pale tunaenda. Uganda saizi nasikia wanasema kupima dereva mmoja ni 6500. Jameni, 6500 utaipata wapi kama dereva? Ombi langu ni Waziri Machari akuja ongea na huyo wa minister wa transport upande wa Uganda. Waje wakae pamoja, kibisha pamoja, watafute solution. Bila hivyo jamani, sisi hapa tunaumia.
Mambo tu hii ya kupima tu ndio inaleta hii jam yote. Unakuta results zinachelewa kutoka. Kama sasa tumeambiwa Uganda kule kupima itakuwa ni pesa na lazima tuje tupime.
The drivers say the hiking of the prices by the Ugandan authority will force the drivers to wait for more than 2 days to get their results, saying the queue might overstretch in the neighboring Uasin Gishu County. They further pointed out that the long queues of trucks are posing great danger to the residents who mingle with the drivers as they seek services.
Ile mgugo yetu ya transport naona imenyamaza kimya na naona hizi masaibu.
The Lake Region Economic Bloc Advisory and Resource Mobilization Committee and County Government of Busia have expressed fears over Ugandan truck drivers flocking into Kenya to test for coronavirus COVID-19 following the 6,500 shillings charges introduced by the Ugandan government. They said the move will overstretch Busia County resources in fighting the COVID-19 pandemic, considering that the tests are conducted for free.
The charges introduced yesterday by the Uganda side, 6,500 Kenyan shillings, has caused a surge in the Kenyan side. Everybody is running from Ugandan side because Kenyan side is testing for free. So the daily average numbers they always of samples they take, which is between 180 to 200, has already surged to a level which is overwhelming. And economically, this is affecting the region.
Busia Deputy Governor Moses Mulomi is appealing to the two governments to address the issue amicably.
Itakuwa challenge kwetu tukiwa hapa Busia. Kwa hivyo ni neno ambalo linatakiwa lishughulikiwe upesi kati ya Kenya na Uganda kiserikali na kidiplomasia kujua ni njia gani tunaweza kutatua, kwa sababu tukiwa wakaaji wa Busia na serikali ya kaunti ya Busia itakuwa ngumu sana kuwezesha sisi kustahimili hiyo kazi, kwa sababu itakuwa upande wetu itatulemea.
Dennis Otieno, TV47.
Now, on Migori Governor Okoth Obado's second term has been marred with court cases, from murder charges to embezzlement of county funds, and now facing an impeachment threat. But is Okoth Obado a grand schemer or just an unlucky man? When did the rain start beating Governor Okoth Obado? Mwangi Maina now reports.
Standing tall, slightly above 6 feet, with a beckoning bald head, a dull demeanor and rough-faced meet Migori's inaugural governor, Zakaria Okoth Obado, a man embroiled in court cases and not new to controversy and chaos. The former teacher, businessman and farmer is a troubled man. He is steering a ship against a furious and raging tides. Obado is a man walking on a tightrope. He rose to fame in 2013 when he bagged the Migori gubernatorial seat on a ticket of a little-known party, the People's Democratic Party, beating ODM pants down in the party's stronghold. Since then, his has been a tainted reputation and a controversial profile. In 2017, Okoth Obado was accused of sponsoring rowdy youth who stormed Ochilo Oyako's campaign meeting, where violent confrontations occurred. The meeting, steered by Governor Ali Hassan Joho, aborted prematurely, and later, Obado was fined 2 million Kenya shillings by the ODM disciplinary committee. In 2018, Obado was in the limelight yet again, this time round facing murder charges stemming from the horrendous and gruesome murder of her estranged lover, Rongo University student Sharon Otieno. Sharon, who was then 7 months pregnant, is said to have been raped, tortured and stabbed 8 times and her body dumped at Kodera Forest. Obado was arraigned, charged with a well-orchestrated murder, spent almost a month in remand and later released on bond. The case is still active in court. In 2018, he became a close ally of Deputy President William Ruto, and even at one time, he sought for endorsement from the people of Migori to be walking freely with the Deputy President. His woes became even more. This pitted him more against his party that he has been at loggerheads with. ODM has already initiated his ouster. Obado confessed that he was being thrown in a crocodile's mouth and asked for prayers after facing the murder charges. Not once, not twice, the stand-talking governor has clashed publicly with other leaders. Fast forward to 2020, Obado testified in court over alleged poisoning of South Kanyamkago MCA, who alleged that he was poisoned after taking tea at a Migori hotel in the company of Governor Okoth Obado. Obado, his wife and 4 children have so far been charged with embezzlement of 73.4 million Kenya shillings from the county government of Migori. He has so far been barred from stepping foot in the county office. His career is in jeopardy as impeachment is on its way, with the Deputy Governor Nelson Mahanga already taking charge of the office. The Orange Party is championing the impeachment motion, but Obado says the grounds he is accused have not been looked into, and I quote, MCAs have a right to initiate an impeachment motion against a governor, but why would the party force the Migori MCAs to impeach me when most of the grounds for what I have been accused of have not been looked into? Migori's Okoth Obado is a governor wallowing in murky waters. The question being, is a 73.4 million scandal the last nail on Okoth Obado's coffin? Of Dry Bones, Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
And in recent times, religious meetings have increasingly become the norm of Deputy President William Ruto's Karen and Sugoi residence, attracting clergies from various parts of the country. But the meetings continue to be put under sharp scrutiny over their genuineness following remarks made by the second-in-command on a raft of issues in the country. Plotting for 2022, maybe. Our reporter David Mudhoka has the details.
It is among the latest worship sessions to be held at Deputy President William Ruto's Karen residence. And just like in this popular Christian Kikuyu song, Ngai wakwa we wa magegania, to mean a God of wonders, the DP has capitalized in worshipping from home intrigues. A move that has been seen as a 2022 campaign strategy, maybe in the footsteps of former President Daniel Moi, who was a faithful member of the African Inland Church AIC. And even as the tens of congregants sang along in awe at the DP's apparent eloquence in the Kikuyu dialect, this particular religious event is just but the icing on the cake to the many events that have either been held here at Karen or at Ruto's Sugoi home, despite the full disregard for COVID-19 containment measures here, among them the ban on social gathering as well as social distancing. Ruto has appeared to use the forums to drum up support ahead of the 2022 presidential elections.
The same way they did not succeed then, I want to tell you, they will not succeed now. Blackmail, threats, intimidation. They did not succeed in 2012 against Uhuru Kenyatta and myself. They will not succeed in 2022.
The pulpit has been Ruto's platform to fire a salvo at the ruling Jubilee government, which some of his allies says sidelined him.
Hatutaki ukoloni mamboleo. Ati watu wenye mamlaka fulani wanajaribu kushurutisha na kulazimisha kanisa ati mutafanya hii, hamutafanya ile.
Whether the DP is banking on the clergy, has he plots for 2022 through the numerous religious events at either Karen or Sugoi has raised enough eyebrows lately. In the month of August alone, Ruto held at least 9 religious meetings with clergymen and congregants from various denominations, a significant rise from July's 5. On August 5th, Ruto met members of the East Africa Pentecostal Church led by Bishop Geoffrey Muthinja, while a day later, he hosted religious leaders from Narok in Karen. On August 11th, the DP yet again hosted a delegation of Kajiado South constituents led by MP Kato Olemetito and Senator Mary Senator before hosting African Inland Church leaders from Lower Eastern 2 days later in Karen. On 18th August, Ruto met clergymen from Baringo at Karen, while a couple days later, the DP hosted Nairobi's faith leaders in Karen. On 23rd August, it was time to shift the pulpit to Sugoi before returning to Karen, where he met the clergy from the Federation of Evangelical and Indigenous Christian Churches of Kenya on 25th August. The final landing of the month was 4 days later in Mvita, where he met faith-based leaders from Vita and Nyali regions. The alarming series of the religious meetings continues to cause a stir, with the DP's remarks during the events revealing there is more than meets the eye. David Mudhoka, TV47.
Children's Department or Children Department officers and the DCI in Machakos intercepted a middle-aged lady suspected for child trafficking deal. Confirming the incident, Machakos Sub-County Children Officer Emily Kimanzi revealed that there was a planned deal between the real mother of the newborn and the buyer.
Investigations revealed that the mother of the newborn had entered an agreement with the buyer of the baby, who was to pay 1,000 shillings immediately the baby was born.
Kulingana na yule ambaye alizaa the small baby wa 3 months, anasema ametoka Kitui area ya Matinyani, na yule mwingine mkubwa kidogo mama yake anasema ametoka area ya Kibwezi. So wote tumekuta na huyu mama ambaye anasema aliwapea 1,000 ndio wakampatia mtoto.
The mother of the newborn is said to have lied to her husband that she had aborted the pregnancy, while the buyer of the baby, who has also recorded medical problems resulting to her not getting a child, had also tricked her husband that she was pregnant.
Amekuwa na medical complications ndio hajaweza kupata, lakini for the last 9 months amekuwa akidanganya bwana yake ya kwamba ako expectant. For 9 months akaenda until sasa the 9th month akaenda na akarudi akaambia bwana yake amezaa, na bwana akaamini ya kwamba amezaa. Na yule aliuza bwana alikuwa amesema wa abort, na yeye akaenda akadanganya bwana ameabort.
For now, the baby is under the care of the children department, while the 2 ladies involved in the transaction have also been detained awaiting court charges. Another 5-year-old girl has also been rescued from the buyer awaiting investigations. Immaculate Tuma, TV47.
The University of Eldoret has started research on herbal medicine in North Rift region as a way of promoting usage of safe herbal medicine to treat diseases in villages. Boniface Baraza toured West Pokot County and filed the following report.
For over 5 years, Richard Kiprop, a herbalist, has been attending to patients who suffer from cancer and diabetes at Ketio village in Kapenguria town, West Pokot County.
Niko na msichana hapa ambaye alikuwa ugonjwa wa matiti. Mwaka 2 iliyopita nilisunguka hospitali, nilikuja Kapenguria, nikaenda Eldoret, ikaonekana kwamba hii ni kansa. So nikarudisha nyumbani, nikakuja kwa huyu daktari. Hapa ndio nilipata uponyaji ya mtoto yangu.
Some of his daily clients want the government to cooperate with the herbalist by conducting a thorough research to promote access to safe health care in this region where majority of the people rely on homemade medical solutions.
Hii ni madawa ya makuka, na watu wetu walikuwa wanatumia hii dawa kutibia nyumbani, na hatutawachia nje serikali wakisema ya kwamba hii dawa yetu wacha tupeleke KEMRI ithibitishwe na iangaliwe kwamba inatibu hii ugonjwa ya saratani.
This is what informed the University of Eldoret to conduct a research on the said herbal medicine to ascertain its efficiency and usefulness in treatment.
We work with herbalists with a view of assisting them to do finer biochemical analysis to specifically identify and isolate and where possible purify the active ingredients that actually cures the disease. And then we as a university purify, and after testing and meets our criteria, which is if it will treat 9 people out of 10, which is 90%, then it satisfies our criteria, then we will move ahead to have it produced in large scale.
This research targets over 150 herbalists who want to develop diabetes and cancer medicine center in North Rift region. The county government of West Pokot has asked Kenya Medical Research Institute KEMRI to devolve medical research functions, especially to counties relying heavily on herbalists.
Weke manane kuchunga miti ya local trees, indigenous trees Kenya mzima. Tuongeze hata miti ya kisasa tupande. Sababu kutokana na hiyo research KEMRI na kwingine na the university laboratories kina biochemistry, microbiology na environmentalists, universities na research institutions watatumia hizo kuangalia. Mimi mwenyewe nimekuja kuangalia, hii sio kama ile ya msee ya Tanzania.
Boniface Barasa, TV47, West Pokot County.
Still in West Pokot, and West Pokot women have protested over the expulsion of 4 members of County Assembly who are alleged to be disloyal to the party. Grace Rengei, Nancy Chombir, Josephine Chiprum and Jackie Ripo are the 4 KANU MCAs who have been de-whipped by the oldest party in the country. The letter from KANU Secretary General Nick Salat cited refusal to remit monthly membership subscription fee, failure to adhere to party loyalty code, failure to defend and promote the party positions while serving at the West Pokot County Assembly, among other reasons.
Warnings, hakijafanya chochote bali imeweza tu kuambia muache kazi. Surely hiyo ni Kenya ya wapi tunaelekea? Gideon Moi, ninakuaddress leo. Tunajua wewe bado unajifunza siasa. Nenda polepole.
Wakati gavana Lonyangapuo alitaka Catherine Mugenyang awe speaker, alituomba kwamba hata lija wanaume wengi walitaka hiyo nafasi. Lakini gavana Lonyangapuo akasema kwa sababu yenu wa mama wa Pokot mulibaki nyuma, tupatie kura. Sisi wa mama 10 tuliunga mkono.
Kuipa rasilimali, kuipa pesa za Pokot. Kama vile wametoa signatories. Madam Speaker amekuwa na cartels yake na kubadilisha wale ambao wanaenda kutoa pesa pengine. Ndio au pia inaonekana mkono yao wanataka kuiba hiyo pesa. Sisi kama Pokot tunasema pesa yetu haiwezi ibwa. Tunachua nyinyi vizuri kuwa pia KANU walitutesa enzi ya 1984.
All right, and on that very note, it's time now that we take a short break. We're coming back with a newspaper review, so don't you go anywhere. Welcome back to the broadcast. Let's now cross over to the newspaper segment as we take a look at the stories that have been captured. We have the People's Daily, Standard newspaper, and the Daily Nation. And joining me for the same is an analyst who's going to help me take you through this. Jared is the guy of the day, Jared Oundo, who's also the lead consultant, Jubiland Stewards of Africa. And yes, he'll be here with me this morning as we briefly take a look at the papers. Jared, good morning.
Good morning.
You're well? I'm good. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, and like I said, we have the People Daily, we have the Standard newspaper. Let's pick the first story on the Standard newspaper. Thorn in DP's flesh, tormentor-in-chief, Jubilee Chair David Murathe is sending unrelenting attacks that have put the country's number 2 in an almost permanent defensive posture as 2022 approaches. And lately, Ruto is hitting back super hard. A story that has been captured on page 8 of the Standard newspaper. I know you're privy to the events and, of course, the utterances, exchanges, and, firing of shots that have been playing out between these two gentlemen. What do you make of it, and what does it speak of course, the politics of the country, on the Jubilee?
Okay, on my side, basically, this is really aligned. Everyone is trying to cut the cloth according to size, and everyone is trying to pull his own side. So basically, what's happening? It's not a war. What I had Murathe said the other day is because of tenders. That's what made them. But basically, I think that this is because of 2022. Everyone wants to beat his own drum, and every party wants to outshine. When Murathe speaks, he speaks on his behalf. When Ruto and his men speak, they speak on his behalf. So, but from where it should not be issue about it, because the two clashed because of our tender. The tender started somewhere in Kambani of a dam that they were supposed to construct, and I'm told, according to Murathe, what he said, William Ruto and his brigade overvalued the tender by 3 billion shillings. So, they're fighting for. They're not issues affecting us. They're issues affecting themselves. They're selfish things. Issues affecting the people of Kenya. What to improve the people of Kenya, not who gets what, who uses what. We should, as a nation, I think we should work as a one accord. For us to realize the Kenyan dream, we need all our religious leaders, political leaders to work together. But if we continue these wars that are there, we might not get where we are going.
But just how much can we say, yes, that the politics of the day is probably is amongst the things that probably do not bother the people of Kenya as much, because we know very well that these are leaders that enjoy so much clout or carry so much clout in terms of, the support that they enjoy in the country. Just looking at how much they have, people who are right behind them, and, people who are interested in matters politics. Just how much can we sit comfortable and say that, these are not issues that affect us?
Most people say so, that politics of the country doesn't affect me. But our daily life is affected by the politics of the country. If today, look at 2007, 2008 was election violence. Whatever happened was caused by politics. You might say that politics are not affecting me. Our children could not go to school that particular time. I remember I was in Form 1 in the year 2007 to 2 ago. I couldn't go to school because of the clashes at that particular time. Most of us, some of us who stay who are seeing other parts, they used to sit down and say that things are wrong. We know what one much when they came for Democrats, I was silent. When they came for Republicans, I was silent because it was not concerning me. When they came for the Jews, I kept quiet because that was not concerning me. But when they came for the Negroes, I kept quiet because that wasn't me. When they came for me, there was no one left to speak for me. It it's a high time that, whatever it is, these are issues affecting us. So if we are able to discuss them in a sober way, we are able to find solutions. But if you sit down like an ostrich and hide your head in the sand and say, whatever these people are discussing doesn't concern me, then there are issues affecting us. And of course, we just basically bury your head in the sand and it would not really help.
Okay.
Religious issues are affected by politics in this country. Yeah, if we don't have peace, then there's not going to be tax. If there is no peace, there's not going to be business. You remember the other years, like 2007, 2008, tax were banned. So if you are a businessman and you sat down and say, these political issues, they're not concerning me, you made losses. Your people, some of your workers will not report to work. Get it? And even right now, what's currently happening, these are political issues. If then we say as business community, as a religious community, came together and said, let's work with the government, but we say, those corona issues, those are political issues, the government will take it and leave that issue. And that's why our problem is. Politicians only think about things, what they will eat, they don't think they basically don't think with their intellect, they think with their belly, they think with their intestine. What am I going to eat? They don't care about it all.
Okay, well, and yes, speaking of issues that would be of importance to the people of Kenya, there is a big story right here, or a big read on page 4 and 5 on matters KEMSA graft scandals or KEMSA graft allegations. And in hot seat, CS throws KEMSA under the bus. That is the CS for Matters Health. And as you can see right there, COVID funds probe Health CS Kagwe and PS Muchache say that no money was lost, but fault KEMSA over purchase of COVID-19 equipment, captured on page 4 and 5, like I said earlier on. And you've been following up on this case, and we also the grilling yesterday of the CS and the PS too. And the ATRAN says, and with so much confidence, they came out to indicate or to say that not so much or not money was lost, that all these monies that were there were channeled towards buying an equipment here or there. We still get these discrepancies from the reports that we are receiving from the agencies. What does it speak? Because then this is a matter of interest to the people of Kenya, knowing very well that so much has been channeled towards dealing with COVID-19, so much so from the donors and so much so from the taxpayers' pocket.
Yeah, so basically what happens, every now and then we have had such scandals. I think the very first scandal when I was growing up, the first one that I heard about was spoiled and bad. Then it was said, no money was lost. Everyone came defending every other thing. Then after that, we had Anglo-Vision. Then after that, we had the cemetery scandal. After that, we have had many other. We have had recently Eurobond. We had NYS. And now we are having this particular scandal of COVID-19 billionaires. So basically what happens in this particular country, in any other country in Africa, is that people presume that everyone has eaten. No one will come and tell you that I have eaten. After they eat, they wipe their mouth. So in law, according to our constitution, when you are guilty till proven, you are not guilty till proven guilty, you are innocent till proven guilty. Pardon me. So basically, what happens? If you have checked that yes, I've eaten, what happens? You will be rotting behind bars. So that's one thing we're trying to avoid. It's all about politics. A politician will always tell you see this is 6. And if they change it, they fix my way and show this is 6. And actually this is number 9. This is not number 6. The same way the rule is number 9. So basically, we know that money has been lost. How do you spend 4 million on just one man? We started from there. And even looking at this, but the money that we receive from IMF, World Bank, and other donors, where did that money go? I haven't seen anything. We were told that we're buying sanitizers. I've never seen sanitizer. Where I stay, there's a slum nearby. There are 2 slums that surround us. So we have visited those particular places, checking if indeed they receive the donations from the government in terms of sanitizer and other hygiene packs. I'm told they received 0. And also the food that we had, completed the slums. I think Paluben was one of the first slums. You remember the other time your friend Kalisto Sofula, he said at conference in their team, saying that of course people didn't receive food as they expected. When I asked the area chief, and he confessed that the food was not for the poor people. The food was meant for health workers. So our question will be, the money that was supposed to support the poor people is going to people who can really support themselves. So basically, it challenged us to catch really that money that was meant for internal and specific issues is being diverted to things that are not supposed to be there. It's really even if you are donors, I've had some donors have pulled out, and it really depends who suffers. Normally say when two bulls are fighting, who suffers is the grass. So it's us 190 that are suffering. Yeah, and this particular time we have seen in the papers, millions of Kenyans have lost their jobs, both formal and informal. Those who have initially employed in restaurants, teachers, in private schools, and elsewhere, even churches. So because mega churches are also downsizing, because they are no longer able to raise enough offering support their pastors. So it's a shame the little we are getting, instead of building our nation, instead of doing whatever is supposed to be done, we are channeling those in our own private investment. This is basically the highest degree of selfishness, the highest degree of greed. And I wonder those kind of people where they live, but I think the time will come when God will judge us.
Yes, and yes, like I said, right here on page 4 and page 5 of the Standard newspaper is a particular story that, got this lady and gentleman being hard-pressed to explain or give us explanations more. But going back, there's a story that has been captured on the front page, but equally on page 2, state freezes assets of 9 Terra financiers. And yes, the state and the global fraternity has for a long time been grappling and trying to deal with the terrorist groups in across the world. And this move looked by many or seen by many as a way of, actively and successfully dealing with terrorists across the board. What do you make of this? Because then you know very well that, again, these terrorists have so much money, and even in the quest to radicalize more youths, it is money that is normally used. And looking at the way they, conduct their activities, a clear indication that in most cases so much money is channeled towards that. So is this a step towards the right direction, or what would be the implications of the same?
I totally support that move. When you are able to, when you interfere with a man's finance or even a citizen's finance, you interfere with their operations. So the fact that they have interfered with the financial flow of the terror group, basically that means that they are not able to operate as they used to operate. In terms of they are not able to finance their activities, and that is able to cripple them one way or the other if they are able to. However, we also need to look at the source of their finances. Who supports them? Where do they get their money? If we are able to deal with the root cause, instead of just we are dealing with the root of the branches of that particular tree of terrorism, we might not be able to finish it. So I think I support the move, and I support again because basically it's geared to the benefit of Kenyans. And you remember we said that we have had the biggest attacks for terrorism in this particular region in terms of the Garissa attack, where at least 47 students were killed. That was more University Garissa campus. And I remember meeting some of those students, even those who are not injured in Moi University. I was in Moi University campus. Up to today, some of them have never forgotten what they went through. You remember the Westgate case. You remember 1990, what happened with the bomb blast at the American embassy. So we should not give terror any particular chance. Whatever we can do in our capacity, let's finish terrorism.
Okay, and speaking of that, that aside, we cross over to Migori County. Obado vows to fight off ODM Oyster plot. It's not technically Migori County, but then again, we all know that these cases and unfortunate occurrences for Obado have culminated from the level of Migori County. One would argue he's probably a man, you know, with 9 lives. He's gone through so much court battles. He's gone through so much issues, and you know, we know very well that even with the aspect of his elections, there's been a lot of credibility issues that were leveled against around that. And here he is facing a motion of impeachment in what many would look at as the right move. Others equally castigate this, saying that it is indeed political witch hunt. Some have argued that maybe his wars have started becoming tighter and tighter after he publicly, you know, pledged alliance to the deputy president, that is William Ruto. You've been following up equally on the same and looping in of his family members, all his kids probably amongst the people who have been implicated alongside him. What do you make of this? And is he really likely to be successful, or, you know, barring the ODM MCAs from, you know, fronting this impeachment motion?
I think his good is already cooked. Obado is going to join the likes of Waititu. He might not be Minji, he might not be Anne Waiguru. First and of all, we know that Obado was not ODM. He had his own party in the year 2013. ODM had their own candidate, but just like my good friend Kalonzo Musyoka, Obado was able to start at the party. So this time round, I know he'll try, just like what the money bag Waititu tried to buy MCAs, support him. But you see, also these MCAs know that there is 2012, rather 2022 is not far from today. So they'll also not like to lose their seat by siding with Obado. So for me, Obado was not ODM, he came to ODM just for the sake of it. And of course, whoever invited him in ODM knew that he might be outside ODM because of how he was better compared to the other people. He was in touch with the ground. I first listened to Obado in 2012. Obado will not speak and be able to speak English. Then he was not that polished man who could speak good English sentences as today. And he has been able to establish himself. He was vying then again as another professor who was really polished pro-ODM, and unfortunately a good professor didn't make it. So what also is happening today is that, you know, Ochila is surprised against Obado. Remember that. And who is currently fronting this particular bill, or who is fronting this particular campaign, is my good friend, the Senator Ochila Ayako, the former minister. So why is Ayako doing that? One, of course, he knows he also has interest to take over the next governor of that particular county. So one way, yes, it's a political witch hunt. The other way, of course, the lead is political witch hunt. There are people who are not pro the parties that are in that particular region. That doesn't mean that you always speak out because you are not sidelining or you are not in that particular political camp. I think Obado is his own enemy. He has done a lot of disgrace to this particular community. He has, remembering the history. I don't want to comment about the name of that lady called Sharon and Seva. There are many things that Obado has done that are anti or that are against the constitution in Kenya. Things that are religious, things that are unethical. So I think it's a high time, when people come back and go and do something different. Because we don't want, nowadays when you ask our children, what do you want to be? I want to be a governor, I want to be a senator. Who is your role model? They think you are role model. The role models are talking about the lives of Obado. So we need to have a constitution that basically says that is the chapter on integrity on the constitution. So we should be able to follow that. The honorable thing, if I was Obado today, I'll step aside. That is basically what I'll do. Yeah, it's called, there's what we call the morality demands that you should be able to stand step aside when you have such like this, because there are a lot of evidence, there are a lot of cases. So So they don't want him to compare himself and say, oh, when Babu said, when Babu had an issue in the court, ODM said this and that, you get it. So you should not be able to compare yourself. No, I'm less a sinner than the other one. Okay. So people, he has done so many, he has done a lot of this just for the people of Migori. So Migori doesn't have good roads, because Obado is in this himself. People who Migori doesn't have water because Obado is trying to ditch his children. So the high time, I'm not taking sides. Actually, Obado is one of those few governors I've ever met and have ever been able to discuss this. What I shared with you in 2014 is totally not thankful.
Yes, and very little time left. Let's take a look at what is captured on the People Daily. Most of the stories equally are like a recap of what is also on the Standard newspaper and The Nation. And Manduku raises bail after days in custody. That is a story in regards to Martha's corruption. And we know very well how it has been the scenario for Manduku, and is captured extensively on page 13 of the same. Equally, the Murathi beef with Deputy President William Ruto captured here, expounded on page 5 of the People Daily. And still on matter terrorism, page 4 and 5, and terrorist confesses to planning new attack, which is pretty much unfortunate. And also the same story, has been captured on the cartoon edition in the Standard newspaper, and I think we've extensively captured or spoken about that. And again, on Kagwe, who spills beans on the road at Kemsa, the minister says that management is incompetent and corruption at the authority has made U.S. government to stop selling Kenya reagents for testing COVID-19. More or less the same stories that we have touched on, and yes, expanding to page 2 on the aspect of Obado. And yes, the impeachment bid runs into headlines as MCAs equally differ on the same. So we wait to see whether indeed he is going to survive on this. Police arrest 2 remandees who escaped from station. I think we were treated to this, and it's probably a step towards the right direction. LSK drafts petition seeking to impeach President Uhuru Kenyatta. Uhuru versus the LSK. What would you say about this? Yeah.
Okay. I think the petition is dead on arrival. The current political wave will not allow it. Who else is that is the question? And from my sheet, who is the dog? Oh no, whenever a dog barks, always ask yourself who is the owner. I've seen who currently heads LSK. My good friend, Nana friend, Harvey. I've seen Harvey and it working together. So, and these are the things I've been seeing here and there, and basically what really happens, who is behind that motion, and who are the members of that society, because it's all over the region, all over the country, but again, who are the main frontliners. So basically what happens, yes, they will have a petition. Who will be determining that particular petition? It's basically like a vote going to a court that is led by the party. So it's dead on arrival. I don't see it going anywhere. But from where we should currently support the president, he has really tried as compared to his past term. He has basically tried to bring the country together, and you see when this orderliness and harmony, we are able to do as a nation. And I think if we are able to support him and give him ideas, instead of fighting left, right, center, we are not able to be where we are going. Sorry to put this. The scriptures says where there's harmony, where brothers sit together in unity, God commands blessing. When you see, we are saying, oh, Tanzania is corona, there's no corona. Those people are united. And that's why even the wind of corona is able to just bypass, like the Passover of the Bible, where the children of Israel houses were not affected by the angel of death. So if we are able to unite at this time and support our president, I'm sure I can give you a cast iron guarantee that we as a nation will be trapped. So what happens, we as a country, our economy was a start with economies of the likes of Taiwan, economies of South Korea, economies of those what we call the Asian tigers. So the question will always be, why do we have so many Asian tigers and few African tribes? The issue is one of these is because of political instability being caused by selfishness, where everyone who is not on power wants to be in power, who is not doing the right, who is not in the cabinet or in the government wants food so that they're able to get feedback here and there. So if we can unite as a people, unity for purpose, support the president and talk to him in a manner. You know, when you in that state, if you didn't just work for an instance, they come and say, well, I should be able to tell you, in the end, the shoe was nice, it could have matched it with this particular color instead of doing that. So there's a way, what we are saying is not bad, how we say it. So I think this petition is wasting time, is wasting our time. We should be saying, every state should be telling us, the president has not done A, B, and C, so we suppose that they should provide A, B, C on what he's doing so that we can move together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and I am glad that you said thank you, because it's on that very note that we're going to wind up this session of Newspaper Review. Jared Oundo, lead consultant, Jubilant Stewards of Africa. Thank you so much for the great insights, as we look forward to have you some other time. Now let's cross over to a different segment all together. We have Joyam Divor on standby, and we also have Dr. Moses on standby. So we're coming back with more on an extensive and comprehensive look of the issues that are making headlines right here in the country after this break. it is a time for the state of the affairs, where we candidly take a look at the issues that are taking center stage right here. And both of these issues are the very same that we've discussed for months now, for years now, and we still continue discussing them. So begs the question as to how much are we serious in regards to addressing some of this issue. I wish there was something positive to speak about, but sadly enough, taking a look at all this that we are looking at, it is almost a scenario that paints a terrible picture of the nation. So I will get to have my specialist on the day, or of the day, and they will come in to tell us more about their take and their feel on how progressive we can be, or what we should do to ensure that we're progressive on addressing some of these issues that we're touching on. We'll be taking a look at the cancer wars that revolves around the aspect of graft, something that we've discussed for the better part of last week and this week. Equally, the Obado wars continue, and of course the Deputy President William Ruto's wars continue. And we also take a look at that move by LSK. It's a bold move to say that they want to talk about hosting President Uhuru Kenyatta. Just how successful would they be on the same? And lastly, the stalemate that has been ongoing at the level of the Senate in regards to addressing the matters of revenue share, monies that are supposed to be channeled towards different counties for the sake of development and running of activities. Joining me this morning, Advocate Joy Mdivor. It's been a minute, Joy. How have you been?
I'm well and thankful. How are you?
I'm good also. Good to have you.
It's good to be here.
And today we have a new face. We have Dr. Moses Mwangi, who's a pharmacist and a past chair at CAPI. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning to you. Nice to see you this morning and to have the opportunity to join this great team of TV47.
And good to have you, Dr. We're looking forward to candid discussions, discussions that are of interest. You are an aspirant. You would wish to venture into matters politics. I mean, just what do you have for the people is some of the questions that we'll be asking this morning. Because yes, most of our politicians will come and they are always very good with great promises. But sadly enough, they have gotten us to these points of terrible moments where, as we're having candid discussions every other morning on the state of the affairs or the state of the nation, it is unfortunate to note that there's barely anything good to speak about in regards to the politics of the nation. So welcome on board, and it's always a pleasure to have you joining us. So straight to it, and we'll start with you, Joy. I mean, I don't know, there is barely nothing good to discuss at this point, and even as the country is grappling to try and balance the aspect of the fight of COVID-19 and also dealing with the aspect of the grappling economy.
I wouldn't say that there is nothing good to report. It is good that we are alive and we are well, and that we still have the fight in us to look at what is going on around us and want it to be better. That, in my opinion, is a plus, because when we get to a place where we are completely despondent and we've given up, then I think this country will be in real trouble. But Kenyans are a resilient lot, and we are a hard-working lot, and we have been through hell and high water and have still survived. So even this one, it will come to pass eventually.
Yeah, imagine a scenario, Joy. Imagine a scenario where a mother decides to sell their baby for 1,000 bob. 1,000 bob.
It tells you things are thick. I remember there was a time in the news where there was a mother who, I think, slaughtered the dog and gave that to the children to eat. So these are very desperate times. The thing that I would want to urge is for those of us who are not yet at that level of desperation to not be so quick to judge people who are in that situation. Because if you see a woman getting to a place where 1,000 shillings is better than nursing her baby, she has reached the complete end of her tether. That means our social justice systems are not working. The money that's supposed to go to cushion the poor during this COVID season is not reaching the intended recipients. The food distribution is not getting to everybody. And it's also a call for us to look around and see what can you do to help your neighbor. But over and above that, we've had this week a lot of condemnation for the people who've been stealing COVID money and generally on corruption. I think the levels of corruption in Kenya have reached where the stench of corruption has reached heaven. And now people are not even talking to the politicians. They're not talking to God. And that's a dangerous place to be. And if it was one of the politicians or the people close to politicians involved in all this would be a good time to stop, because when it gets there, now you're no longer fighting the people, you're no longer stealing from the people, you're contending with a higher power.
Looking at this, Dr. Don't you think it paints a very scary picture? Would one really confidently want to be part and parcel of the leadership of this country, inheriting such terrible reports?
Now, let me say, Dr. Moses Mwangi, I have been in this nation for a while. I have been a leader in the healthcare industry for well over 25 years. Yeah. And I was privileged to serve as a member of the board of KEMSA in 2009 to 2012. And therefore, there is something I know about the healthcare system. I would say the first vice president of the U.S., the first president was George Washington, and his vice president was Adam. He said these words: if good people do not stand up to join government, government will still be formed. If good people do not stand to join government, government will still be formed. And what we have had in this country is that many of the people who have joined the elective leadership, when you look at their character, when you look at their history, even before they join leadership, it is tainted. Yeah. It is, you can, I don't know why Kenyans would expect that people would change because they have become governors or they have become members of parliament. I think it is time for the nation to reset. It is time for the nation, and especially Wajiko, to begin to think that we need leaders who comply to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. We gave ourselves a constitution. We set a very high threshold for leadership in terms of integrity. Yet, we do the complete opposite when it comes to the time to elect our leaders. And therefore, I dare say, Kenyans, where we are, it is not a surprise, because we have chosen to have people in leadership who do not have the vision of the nation. Having said that, from where I sit, I can tell you that these last 2 weeks I feel good. And why do I feel good? I see a judiciary that has suddenly come into play to put people who are corrupt. The criminal justice system, I see, these people who are being caught with their hand in the till, the kind of fines or the kind of bail terms they are getting, I think that is something good. Because if we push in that direction, where people who put their hand in the till have to pay a hefty price, a hefty bail, I think we begin to make some gains in the fight against corruption, because corruption is our biggest cancer in this country.
But just how much can we fault the judiciary in this, Joy, and looking at the rules of the land, the laws of the land? They dictate that indeed one is innocent until they are proven guilty. They dictate very well that one has a right to bail, has a right to bond. So at what level then should we, look at this? And why should, we point fingers at the judiciary? Is there something that they're not doing right? Is there something that they fail to do that would easily help us on the war graft?
As far as I'm concerned, the Kenyan judiciary is working quite well within the confines of the law. The reason for that is simple. The principle of separation of powers makes it such that the executive is the one that governs the country. The legislature is the one that enacts laws, and the judiciary implements and enforces those laws. And in the enforcement, they rely on the executive arm, which is the police, and the investigative arms to actually bring people to book. So it's until they come to court. The court doesn't move itself. Until they come to court is when the courts now interpret and enforce the law by granting court orders. Now, one of the things that Kenyans need to understand is that the purpose of bail or bond is to ensure that the accused person comes to court when they are needed. So it is not there to as a prejudgment. So sometimes when I see Kenyans rejoicing or not rejoicing at the level of bond terms that have been given, it's basically because at that point, you're not yet a convict. So even if you're accused of stealing 60 million, if the judge thinks that 15,000 shillings is sufficient to ensure your attendance to court, he can set that as a bond term. So it doesn't have to necessarily be related to what is in the charge sheet. It only needs to be sufficient to ensure your attendance to court. But one thing that I must agree with Dr. Ri is that we have seen the judiciary being a lot more robust and intentional in helping in the fight against corruption. Case in point was the decision by Judge Mumbi, which is now being regurgitated and replicated in other courts, about barring people, once plea has been taken, barring governors from accessing their offices for the duration of the trial. Now, in my opinion, she was trying to remedy the situation that we have between the gap that is there between Chapter 6 of the Constitution and the Leadership and Integrity Act. And so she decided, you know what, I'm going to slap in this little elastoplast so that that gap is secured. Why? If you're a governor, you're in a position where you can actually negatively influence or even thwart the investigative arms that are looking into your matter. So in order to prevent that, she adds this addenda because it has the force of law. Once it's a court order, it has the force of law. And so you can tell that the judiciary is also trying to assist in this fight against corruption. However, that being said, I must say, it is principally important that the other actors in the criminal justice system do their job so that the judiciary is able to do its job well. Why? If you have shoddy investigations, if the matter that is being tried in court is not being handled by a competent prosecutor, it means the DCI and the DPP will fail the judiciary because, the judge and the magistrate has to act on evidence. They cannot act on hearsay. They cannot act on public outcry. They cannot act on matters of public notoriety. Everybody knows that Joy is corrupt. They can't act on that. It has to be proof. So if the DCI does not have quality investigations and the DPP do not have quality prosecutions, then the judiciary cannot have quality judgments. So the thing with the judiciary is not that this one armed government stands by itself. No. They are one actor in a concert of actions. And some of the actors are not part of the judiciary. They are part of the executive. And so there is need for the entire criminal justice system to be made robust. In addition to the DCI and the DPP, the EACC also has to do its work, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Authority, so that the evidence that is brought to court is sound and is ably put to the court to secure convictions. Because once that is done and the judiciary fails to convict, then you can start pointing fingers at them.
Now, when one quarter asks for the need for, the Attorney General to come in and, scrutinize these reports that are being projected, these allegations that are there, another quarter feels like, this is unfair, that we are having double speak on matters dealing with corruption. Let's talk about cancer a bit. First, what do you make of how this case has been approached and the utterances of the health CS yesterday that, no money was really lost, but again, the operations in KEMSA are wanting. Paint a picture of what it is like now that you've sat on the board of KEMSA at some point in time, on how, operations are conducted, procurement processes are conducted, activities within this body are conducted, Dr. Ri.
Now, the board that I served in 2009 to 2012, we came in at the backdrop of two previous boards, having been fired by the then cabinet secretary or minister, Honorable Charity Ngilo, and then thereafter, Honorable Professor Anyang' Nyong'o. And we came in as a board that we looked at what had gone wrong in KEMSA for many, many years. And we actually narrowed down on reforming that institution and positioning it as a strategic national organ to be able to serve the healthcare system. And since then, 2009, KEMSA was able to come out very, very strongly to win the confidence of donors. Previously, donors would give money in kind. Medicine would arrive in the country, even though money has been given. But for the last, say, 10 or so years, donors grew confident and they would give money. And the institution of KEMSA was developed to such a robust extent that at one point it won a global award on standard. Now, the role of KEMSA is to procure, warehouse, and to distribute medicine. And in that procurement, they are guided by the procurement law in Kenya. The public procurement and disposal law. Yeah. And where the donor is involved, whether it is World Bank or it is USAID or it is Global Fund, they are also guided by the procurement regulations that come along with that kind of thing. And therefore, I would like Kenyans to look at KEMSA not just in the prism of the last, say, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Go back and see how this organization has grown. When we joined there, the organization had only 99 employees. Within 3 years, the institution had grown to employ well over 350 people. And it has grown because of that kind of robustness. Now, the last 3 years...
Daktari, before you even go to the last bit, this growth purely speaks of, how effective it's been to have KEMSA. This growth speaks of how much, money is channeled towards ensuring that KEMSA is able to run its activities well. But today, the minister says that management is incompetent and corruption at the authority has made the U.S. government to stop selling Kenya reagents for testing COVID-19. I mean, in such a scenario and a whole raft of other issues leveled against the performance of KEMSA, governors at some point in time standing and saying that they're not going to work with KEMSA, where does it take it again? Does it take it to that 99 persons being employed there? Does it take it to that level where, again, people will say we can as well disband KEMSA?
That is the place we must not go. And I am personally of the view that we should not throw away the baby with the bathwater. We should look at what has happened. And it's very easy to see what has happened. Management, when you talk about management, what do you mean? KEMSA got a new CEO 2 years ago, less than 2 years ago, and things have gone south. Management, board, KEMSA got a new board. Is it 1.5 years ago? So it's very easy to see what has happened. This is about leadership and management, and it is not many people. I can tell you because I have a little, I keep tabs. I'm a pharmacist and I'm in the healthcare industry. I can tell you, if you go to KEMSA, there are plenty of good people, even at the executive level, but 1 or 2 bad apples who arrive there with an agenda. It's very easy to see. Cut that apple and reset the organization to do this. Because I can tell you, if every governor were to buy medicine for their county from every Tom, Dick, and Harry, we will have more corruption because, corruption takes place between 2 people. One is a private player, the other one may be a public player. So the more multiplicity of them, number one. Number 2, if you buy 1 tablet in KEMSA at 1 shilling, and this is a study that has been done over many, many years, anywhere else you buy it at 6 shillings, at least, because of the sheer economies of scale that the procurement in KEMSA brings. Number 3, it is very important as we buy medicine to know the source.
Yeah.
That source could be in a pharmaceutical company in India, it could be in a pharmaceutical company in the UK, it could be in a pharmaceutical company in Kenya. You need a quality management team to visit this institution, to audit the good manufacturing practices, to make sure that Kenyans get quality medicine, and therefore it is very important we sort this out, because when KEMSA does that, it does that on behalf of all the 47 counties. It will be completely a logistical nightmare and very, very expensive.
Then the biggest question... Yes, Dr. Ari, my question then would be, who is supposed to come in and, make the house of KEMSA check or in order? Because, you see, it's absurd when, again, the CS, the PS, decides to just say, let's throw you under the bus and acknowledge that there is a problem within, this particular institution. But then again, I would want to believe, Joy, that KEMSA sits squarely within the health docket. So why would it sound like, there's, the shift of blame game that is playing right now?
If we're looking for answers from the political players, I don't think we'll find answers from the political players. If you're looking for answers from the ministry, I don't think we'll find answers from the ministry. The main reason for that is that these people are not equipped with sufficient investigative powers. Now I'm talking about Parliament, the Senate, and the National Assembly. And the people in the ministry may be implicated one way or another, either complicitly in being involved in the heist or because of negligence, by function of negligence, such that it happened under your watch. And so they would be looking out for themselves. The people I'm looking to for answers is the people the President commissioned, the EACC, the DCI, because they are equipped with the investigative powers and they're able to investigate more thoroughly and to come up with the evidence that we need to actually pin people down on this particular heist. And so right now, I'm not looking to the politicians to give us a response. The Senate committees are very welcome. They shed some light on the situation. The National Assembly ones as well are welcome because they shed some light. The minister and the CS and the PS and the other KEMSA members of the board, as well as from the management, they're giving us some light. But it is until the EACC files its report to the president within the time stipulated, and the DCI file their report to the president within the time stipulated, when I think Kenyans will have some real answers on if there was money stolen, how much was stolen, who stole it, and it is now. Because at the end of all this, we want restitution, we want the money to come back. So this is one situation where let's not be sidetracked by the sideshows and what's happening in the Senate and the National Assembly. That's their function, let them go ahead with it. But if Kenyans want real answers in this thing, the people you need to give time and to give energy to and give resources to is the EACC and the DCI, because they are competent. And if what we saw in the Waluke case is anything to go by, they may take their time, but if they're given the opportunity to do their investigations well, we will be able to nail the culprits and bring them to book.
All right, Daktari, then, what next for KEMSA as we try to revive this, and even as we deal with these cases of COVID-19? Because the reality is that while the CS might acknowledge that monies were not lost, there's still a lot of discrepancies that are playing out. There's still a lot of question marks that are playing out. And President Uhuru Kenyatta giving a 21-day ultimatum for the agencies to get answers to it. I mean, are we even likely to get, reports?
First of all, I want to totally agree with the advocate Joy. That is really what will give us the answer. Anything else, there will be a lot of innuendos, there will be a lot of suspicion, and there is also the political game that is at play. So I think it is very, very important that we give EACC the opportunity. And as I say, it's not a very difficult job to be done through an audit trail, because I know that there is proper documentation. Just remember who blew the whistle. Who blew this whistle? It was the procurement director of KEMSA, Mr. Charles Juma. He has written a letter. So the management there, let's give that opportunity time. Meanwhile, the Kenyan hospitals are still operational. There are still sick people who need to be served, who require medicine. I think the current management, because the CEO was suspended, the current management should be given the opportunity to continue serving Kenyans, because I know they can do it. And then, as soon as the president receives the report, we should see action. Whoever is culpable should carry the cross. Nobody should be left aside. And I believe because the healthcare system, especially KEMSA, has a lot of donor funds, which are very useful in the fight against malaria, in the fight against HIV and AIDS, in the TB fight now, and of course now the COVID. And I believe with credible investigations and report, even our development partners will be able to look at a new KEMSA. And because we were able to do it before, in 2008, 2009, 2010, we were able to reset the organization and get to a global level. I think we will get there. Let's just, as Kenyans, wait for the real truth, which will be earthed out through the investigations.
All right, and like you rightfully put it, I think on that very note, we will leave this subject, of course, a matter of concern and of interest to the common mwananchi and the country at large. We can only wait to see what will happen in regards to this. But before we even drop it, Joy, Right Honorable Raila Odinga's proposal, what do you make of it and the counter that it has experienced, in comparison to the previous cases of corruption that we've had in the country before, or the allegations of corruption that we've had before? Are we experiencing double speak? Yes, I acknowledge that you've said we might not even get answers to this from the politicians. But then again, would this be the noble direction to take what it is that the Right Honorable is proposing?
No, I find it curious that when the shoe is on the other foot, we start hearing calls of exhaustive audits, forensic audits, and such like things. And that's where there is a pushback. Because before, on mere allegations, action has been taken and we have seen progress. Why am I saying that? Is because when you're looking into criminal impropriety, if you wait until the audit is done, by that time the bus has left the station. It's not sufficient, or rather, it's not prudent to wait until an audit is completed, because by that time it's too late. The time to take action is now. When the whistle has been blown and there's reasonable suspicion, we have seen the donors giving an ultimatum. We want a report on how the first tranche of cash has been spent within, was it 14 days they gave us? We have had the president saying, I want a report within 21 days. That tells me where there is smoke, there is fire. So if we come to a place where we are starting to call for an exhaustive audit and things like that, in my opinion, it's just, now that the shoe is on the other foot and the allegations are also blowing close to home, now we want things done in a different way. We cannot have that. We must have consistency and tenacity in how we handle matters. And it's not up to the political class to tell us how this will be done. It's up to the responsible agencies to go ahead and do it. But one thing that I will agree with what the Right Honorable said is that in Kenya, and I'm glad that now everybody's on the same page on this matter, is that we have politicized and weaponized the war against corruption, so that we use it not to arrive at the truth, but to achieve a political end. We have used it not at arriving at the truth, but settling scores with our foes. And that is the wrong premise for fighting corruption, because it's not sustainable. So one thing I'm glad that finally, because we had it with the Deputy President and his allies, we've had it with other small players, quote unquote, before.
Yes.
Now I'm glad that I had it also from Edwin Sifuna and the ODM party, that sometimes in Kenya, we miss the point because we politicize the war against corruption and we weaponize it. And when you do that, people come at you with their weapons as well, and they frustrate arriving at the truth. So time has come for us to get a consistent way of dealing with corruption cases, and something that is applied across the board, not just for the wherewithal or the interest of the day, But whenever there is impropriety, we know A, B, C, D will happen, and E is the result. That's what we need to do and lock down in the country. Because let me just say this. It's unfortunate that 56 years after this nation was born, we still talk about needing political goodwill to fight corruption. We should arrive at a place where the systems are so well oiled and is so in place such that the president has got nothing to do with starting the train to move forward. He shouldn't have to say, give me a report within 21 days. He should know that I have a competent ECI, I have a competent EACC, and in this particular matter, if I pick up a phone call, I'll have a status report. I mean, the president went as far as telling them that he wants daily updates on how far the investigation has reached. Does he have to do his job and micromanage his officers? It's absolutely ridiculous. So I wish as a country would get to a place where we would allow our institutions to do their job, and the predictability of the result should be such that it gives us confidence that if we leave it to them, they will arrive at an answer. This thing of relying on goodwill to fight corruption is what is actually helping us defeat the war against corruption. And this is not right, because the president has said he wants us to get the bottom of this. And I hope that the DCI and the EACC will rise to that challenge, listen to the commander-in-chief, and give him what he has asked for. Nothing less.
All right, I will borrow your analogy, and this will help us to see it, or to the next subject of the day. The Obado wars continue. And speaking of getting real-time solutions, speaking of getting to address these issues, when they're still ripe, so that we can be able to get answers. ODM, in a different view, has decided that, it is now time that we raise the talks of an impeachment of Migori Governor Okoth Obado, who's facing a raft of cases, that is court cases or court battles in regards to, yes, his county, and also murder charges, unfortunately, and, issues to do with matters corruption. Exactly what we are talking about right now. What does it speak of the genuineness in addressing the same? As they would say, you are innocent until you're proven guilty. Why is this then that, it sounds like it's a different occurrence for the ODM? And how far are they able to push the impeachment motion that they have set for Governor Okoth Obado, Daktari?
Now, while it is very, very important that the country sees, some progress in the fight against corruption, especially in the counties where we have the devolution, which was a very welcome thing. It's breathed fresh air into our way of doing things. Yet we've seen a lot of corruption. I think I would not have really expected the party to be the initiator of such a move for impeachment. That is the docket of the MCAs, the County Assembly of Migori and the people of Migori. I would think that it sets a dangerous thread in that. When there is something going wrong in a particular corner, the political party, national whigs move in to push an agenda. That means that
Daktari, allow me to distract your line of thought. Daktari, allow me to distract your line of thought. And let's pick this phone call before we get to lose the caller. Good morning. Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Yes, Jambo, how are you?
I'm fine, Linda.
Yes, this is Wafula, right?
Yes.
Thank you so much for calling in. Let's get to hear your sentiments on the subject of discussion.
I wanted to join the conversation.
Yes.
We have realized that fighting corruption is not necessarily political goodwill.
Yeah.
Because we realize that Oluke is in change after disagreeing with the government or the system.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, fighting corruption is actually the role of the government and the president. The president has all the power, he has the constitution, he has the equipment of power. Therefore, there's nothing that can stop him from fighting corruption. About your patrol, I think ODMs are playing politics because they want now to raise that case so that when TP side will defend him, will definitely defend him in Senate. They will now start painting TP as the most corrupt or a lot of corruption. They want to raise to sacrifice him for the purpose of politics. Therefore, me personally, I feel the president has a role to ensure that he fights graft. Instead of him borrowing money from everywhere, he need to fight these people. He need to declare corruption as a national disaster so that he invites even the FBI to help him track down the perpetrators of corruption. But let us not say that it is based on political goodwill. That is a false narrative that people have been peddling around.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. That is what I have to say, because we have realized that if the president wants you to be in jail, you'll be in jail. Why is it that there are so many cases hanging around there, and yet he has refused to swear in to appoint the judges? He is the one frustrating the judiciary. So he needs to sit down the judiciary and see how he will crack the whip against corruption.
Thank you so much, Wafula Kalistas, for the great insights, and I throw it back to Dr. Moses to expound some more and also react to the utterances of Wafula.
So, as a political party, when you are a member of a party, you can be subjected to discipline. That discipline should be within the constitution of the political party. So ODM has a responsibility if they fight that Governor Obado requires to be disciplined. That is within them. But when it comes to impeachment, in my view, that is the responsibility of the people of Migori through their representatives. And I think they ought to have been given time to be able to process instead of being instructed what to do. So in a way, I would say that the top leadership has jumped the gun. And I would agree with Wafula that this is actually high game politics. But having said that, I think as Kenyans, we don't seem to have understood the constitution that we gave ourselves. Yeah. The constitution distributed the power that used to be there with the presidency. We distributed it among constitutional offices, among constitution commissions, among, and of course, the devolution. And once we did that, we still continue to expect the president to act like we don't have a constitution. I want to agree with Joy and say that the constitutional offices that we created, the EACC, the various Judicial Service Commission, the ICRC, just name them. These offices, we created them so that we can have proper law and order, and so that the power is not in one person. I think the president has no way of directing how judges should rule. If we go there, we will be taking our country back. The president's role is to govern as the leader of the executive.
Right.
With regard to supporting the judiciary, I mean, the JSC has the responsibility to appoint judges. In the older constitution, that was with the president. Now it is with the JSC. And once they have proposed the names, the president ought to appoint those judges.
The president has failed. Not really failed. The president has decided that he's not going to appoint them based on talks of the questionable integrity of the 41 judges that are in question right now. And numerously, there's been that accusations that there is a battle between the executive and the judiciary. Today, on the papers, or today as spoken, that is LSK Council member Bernard Ngetich says that LSK, or the Law Society of Kenya, is drafting a petition to impeach President Uhuru Kenyatta, and the wars continue. And we've seen them pointing a finger at the president. We've seen them calling upon the president to be genuine also on these issues of addressing graft. Joy, coming to the same, or getting your sentiments on the same. And Wafula Kalistas has also projected the need of the president to actively be the first one towards ensuring that we deal with graft successfully. I mean, what does it tell us? What does it speak? And more so with all these allegations, the remain allegations, that also allies of the president are amongst the key figures who have been named on the KEMSA scandal.
One of the things we must appreciate is that the point that I made earlier about not needing political goodwill to be able to implement what it needs to be implemented, we need to get to that level where we are not beholden to people's subjective reactions to situations, but results are predictable. And the reason for that is very simple. Let me use the cases for the 41 judges as an example. In this particular situation, when you apply to become a judge, there are things that you need to provide. And some of the things that you need to provide is clearances from the EACC, clearances from the police that you don't have a pending matter or you have not been convicted of any matter, is clearances from a professional body to show that you're in good standing, you don't have any disciplinary actions pending against you. And all these clearances are done to form the basis now of your interview. During your interview, one of the reports that needs to come to the table before that your matter is concluded is a comprehensive report from the EACC and the DCI on your previous criminal activities, for lack of a better word. When that happens, now that's the time when you're not just shortlisted, but even if you've been shortlisted and interviewed, that's when now you're recommended. So by the time the name is arriving at the president's desk, the Judicial Service Commission has done its work in vetting and ensuring that the quality of the judges that they're recommending for appointment is actually correct. Now, why did we even have the Judicial Service Commission instituted as a constitutional commission in the 2010 Constitution? Was because prior to that, if you remember President Moi, the appointments to become a judge of the High Court of Kenya were basically being done the same way CSs were, or then ministers were being done. It was at the whim and fancy of the president to say, you know what, I like Joy. Today she will be a High Court judge. And the pronouncement would be made, the Gazette notice will come out, and tomorrow I'd go take my oath and I start sitting as judge. No vetting, no nothing. It was purely at the whims of the president and the connections around you that would help you access that favor. We put the Judicial Service Commission to, one, remove that whim and fancy, but also to have vetting of the applicants who are ascending to judgeship, because that was the accusation, that some of the applicants are not up to par, or not up to the challenge. Now, moving to where we are now, if we are going to have a robust judiciary, the Judicial Service Commission must have a free hand to do its responsibility. And if the president has got a concern, the Attorney General sits on the Judicial Service Commission, there's a representative from the Public Service Commission, there's two people who are not lawyers, who are not judges, who sit on there. The president has got eyes and ears in the Judicial Service Commission, where he can say, you know what, let's look at this one further, let's look at this one further. But the point at which the names have been recommended, at that time, the train has left the station. The court has pronounced itself on this repeatedly, and the president has just refused to cooperate on this matter. Well, what has happened now is the Judicial Service Commission is also hamstrung. They're not able to appoint any other judges, any other magistrates, because this one is pending. What that has done is that now access to justice for regular Kenyans is a problem, because the Judicial Service Commission now is in a situation where they cannot repopulate the bench when judges retire, because every time judges attain retirement age, some retire on medical grounds, others unfortunately are deceased. That's how life goes. So as people exit, you need to keep replacing them. Now we are stuck. But over and above that, one of the things that I want to agree with Wafula and with Daktari is that there are institutions with roles and responsibilities for a reason. So where we started with this conversation, the Obado one, if the people of Migori, through their representatives, feel that the governor ought to be impeached, that is their decision. the party would come in to support a decision that has been taken by the people of Migori. But for the party to dictate to the people of Migori it might be well-meaning, but it's not right. Because now you are seeing people from Migori with a pushback saying, who is Mbadi to tell us that we have a problem in Migori? Does he vote in Migori? Now, you don't want to get there with your voters because you will need these people in the next few years to support and to buoy the party. You don't want to start creating these fissures. Not just that, you've got somebody like Governor Ojamong, who's facing the same peril as Governor Obado, and we've not had any such calls that Busia cannot function because Governor Ojamong has been barred from office. So that also gives credence what Wafula was talking about earlier about it's just politics. Because if it was really genuineness, then again, consistency. This is what is lacking in our fight against corruption. Consistency. So I would that we arrive at a situation in Kenya where we allow our institutions to do that which they've been asked to do. We stop overstepping and stop overreaching. And in doing so, we even protect ourselves because nobody can say that you have an interest in the matter if you've not declared yourself on it. But the moment you declare yourself on it, then all of us will be wondering, okay, so there must be something there. Why is Joy interested in this so much? And it leaves you exposed.
All right. Yeah, and towards the last about 5 minutes or so, Dr. Joy categorically states that it's important that we shift our look from the political angle. Stop, looking at politicians to get that political goodwill in dealing with graft in the country. Just how possible is this? We are having a conversation revolving around BBI. While we do not have the final document, we are privy to what is likely to be captured within this 9-point agenda, within this document. And graft is one of the key issues. One, then we'd want to ask, are we short of laws to address graft as it is in the country? Then why is it, if it is not the case, why is it then that we're having a conversation that the likelihoods that BBI is going to give a different view and a different approach towards dealing with graft in the country? And just how successful will these changes be if at all we've not successfully dealt with the corruption as it is right now? You heard Wafula mentioning the case of Waluke. It looks like it was double standard. It looked like it was unfair. It looked like it was a sacrificial land, while others looked at it as though it was a step towards, getting success on dealing with graft, especially on the big fish.
Yeah, I think what we are seeing is an incremental steps in the right direction. Starting with Justice Mobi Boge's ruling, I think we have seen some growth. We have seen some movement with the EACC, even recovering assets from people, assets that are presumed to be from corruption. I think we are seeing some incremental growth. And what I think the conversation of the BBI has done, because the two big wigs, the two big political leaders in the country were able to shake hands and to say, look, let us try and heal the country. Let us try and address the big issues, one of them being corruption. And because of that, we can see the former Prime Minister saying, look, let's not use innuendos. Let us see some investigations before we can shout so-and-so is guilty. So in my view, what the BBI is doing and what we are doing, I want to see that we are taking some positive steps. And if we can seal a deal that ensures that 2022 going forward, we can go to the polling station and cast our vote and go home and wait for the results, and the vote that Wajiko gives reflects the outcome. BBI, with regard to all social issues, whether it is social justice issues, whether it is the fight against corruption, whether it is governance, whether it is, I think we begin to move forward because, as they say, the wheels of justice move slowly, but they should move in the right direction. So in my opinion, a good conclusion of the conversation of the 9-point agenda in a way that puts our society in a more united way in dealing with the issues that we face without politicizing them, allowing the various offices that have been created to deal with the issue, and then ensuring that we appoint the right kind of people to run the right kind of office. We go back to meritocracy instead of political direction. The more we move in the side of meritocracy and we remove the political influence on our nation, because I think Kenya is too highly politicized on any one issue, and we look forward to a country where we can deal with issues without thinking this one is supported by so and so. So I'm looking forward to that kind of a country, and that is why I want to be a governor of Murang'a.
All right, it's going to be a tight one right there. And of course, we wish you nothing but the best, Daktari. And coming to you, Joy, is this forthcoming at all? What Daktari says as we wind up in about a minute or so?
Well, that he wants to be governor of Murang'a?
No, forthcoming that we are going to look at a country where, we'll be able to deal with graft. I mean, for him being governor, we wish him all the best. And like he started by saying, we cannot all sit back and say that, you know what, we're not going to have the good people in leadership, because if you do it or you do not, leadership will always be there. So it's incumbent upon you to, get into the race and equally right the wrongs. So
do your part.
Yeah.
And that's it. I'll answer this question with where I started. I think where corruption has reached in Kenya, the stench has reached heaven. Kenyans have reached a place where forget about your money, forget about your influence. If you're corrupt, you're just disgusting. And that's a good place to be, because when I look at our younger generation, my generation, we are still starry-eyed, and we look at waheshimiwa as waheshimiwa. I look at some of my children are teenagers, and some of the young adults, and they're not even fancy that waheshimiwa maneno, that tag. It means nothing to them. If you remember the time when Bahati was presenting for the president, and he had the audacity to sit in the president's chair, most of us were so aghast. We're like, how dare you?
How do you?
But for his generation, they're like, what's the problem? It's just a chair. And I like that generation that is coming, because they're coming to a place where they don't care you are mheshimiwa. If you're disgusting, you're disgusting, and they call you out as such. And I think that therein lies the hope for Kenya, that we've come to a place where people at a time used to celebrate. I think even one of the Kenyan communities, they have a saying that you'd rather give birth to a thief than to a fool. Now, some of those sayings have got to die in this country, because we have realized if you give birth to a thief, they'll steal even the clothes that you're standing in and leave you naked in the street. So we have to come to a place where corruption, again, stops being called corruption and called theft, because that's what it is. And a thief is treated like thieves are treated. They are lynched, they are publicly disgraced, their families are told, by the way, don't eat with those people, don't even fetch water in the river at the same time as they're fetching. We have to get to that place where the stench of corruption is abhorrent to all of us. But not just that, as a country, we also need a culture change, where, as Daktari correctly put it, you will not put somebody who's a rogue, a quack, a charlatan, a scoundrel in power and expect them to be a saint. If they were a scoundrel while they are doing business with you in the marketplace, they will be a scoundrel when they are ruling over you. If they were a thief while they are dealing with you in the offices and in business, they will be a thief when they're in power. Can we start vetting the quality of the people that we are also allowing to access into these places? And that is why being involved in political parties and offering yourself as a good candidate, a viable alternative, is something that good people must do. This thing of saying that politics is a dirty game, so we feel we are too clean to get involved in it, is just utter rubbish. If anything is going to change, it means we have to change the caliber of people who are getting involved in politics. But over and above that, with the 2010 Constitution celebrating 10 years this year, Kenyans also have to come to a place where we stretch that Constitution to its limits in terms of implementation. Even as we're doing the BBI process, there's a lot in the BBI process that is actually laudable. When we talk about a national ethos or shared prosperity, good citizenry, there are things that we must embrace from the BBI process, even if the document is not yet out. Like you said, there were some things in BBI 1 that we should not lose, some conversations we should not lose. But even without BBI, the things as Kenyans in our culture we need to start eschewing. So responsible citizenship is such that those we put in office, we must continually hold them to account. As protecting corrupt leaders that's been Tuwetu, like, okay, this is not jumping the gun, but like what we saw in Migori.
Right.
When your only basis for defending somebody is because he's your person, that is wrong. Defend her because you're like, I know Joy, she's a woman of integrity. She would not have done that. And if she's done that, then she should face the music. That should be our language, not that we are being targeted. But over and above that, I think as a country, the tide is turning, and we are starting to see a situation where the citizenry is more weak, and they have gotten to a place where they are ready to start holding the leaders to account. And that's a good place to be.
Thank you so much, Advocate Joy Mudivu, for the great insights. Daktari, we'll look to see what it is that you have in terms of promises and pledges for the people of Murang'a as Mwangi wa Iria exits the stage in 2022. We're going to give you that platform sometimes later. We have a program called Pledge Watch, by the way, every Monday from 8 to 9 p.m. where we put leaders to account. And we'll also would not mind to have a session, with the upcoming leaders, just to see whether indeed they have anything promising in terms of change for their people. So we'll purpose to have you someday. That is Dr. Moses Mwangi, HSC pharmacist and past chair CAPI. Thank you so much for the great insights. Ladies and gentlemen, that's where we get to wind up this session as we cross over to the lifestyle segment after this short break. And on the lifestyle segment, we talk matters contraceptive or contraception methods, specifically focus on family planning and the methods that are available, the side effects, the positive effects, and expand some more on what is available for the women, what is available for the men, at what age should someone get into this, of what impact is it for women who would want to get babies later on in life, and so much. So I'm not a specialist on this, but yes, we have a specialist. We have a gynecologist who's joining us to tell us some more on the same, because most of the women are always out there in the dark in terms of understanding matters family planning. So it is your time to take your pen and paper, grab some information right here that would be helpful for you, would be helpful for your mother, would be helpful for your sister, will be helpful for your wife, and together we get to learn. Dr. George Mukaya, who's a gynecologist, joins me. Jambo Daktari.
Jambo, Bariako, good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Yes, good to have you this morning.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy to be here.
And I think straight to business. First of all, what is the purpose of, family planning, contraceptives for that matter?
Well, contraceptive, its main aim is, as the word is generally used in the
public. I can't quite get Daktari.
Yes?
Daktari, I've lost your audio.
Can you hear me?
Now that's much better, yes. What is the purpose of family planning?
Family planning's main aim is to achieve pregnancy when it is desired, and to prevent an unwanted or an unintended pregnancy. So just by the way we use the term loosely, family planning is to make sure that someone falls or conceives when they desire to do so.
99%, so to speak, not 100%. So I have seen women who've gotten pregnant, after they have, these family planning methods, or they have picked one. What really informs this?
Yes, well, not all family planning methods that are available are not 100% effective.
Yeah.
Because these are things that are these are man-made things. And I don't think there's anything man-made on this earth that is 100% effective. However, there are some that are considered more effective than others. So some family planning methods would achieve pregnancy prevention better than others. So yes, women might fall pregnant on a family planning method. However, there are systems or there are choices that you can make to reduce the chance of that happening.
And in this case then, if a person conceives at a time when they have a family planning method on, will this have any impact or effect on the baby that has been conceived, fetus?
The answer to that question is yes and no.
Okay.
And it depends on what family planning method they were using as they fell pregnant. For example, if a woman falls pregnant while she was using the contraceptive pill, usually there's no side effect. But however, if a woman falls pregnant and she is using, for example, the family planning methods that are put in the womb, we call them the intrauterine device, then she has a slightly higher increase of having an abnormal pregnancy. Example, the pregnancy growing in the wrong place. We call that an ectopic pregnancy.
Well, yes. All right, we get to learn some more about that. But first of all, first things first, family planning methods, now that you mentioned that there are methods that, the intra ones, the uterine ones, and, there are also different ones. For the benefit of the person who would not be privy to this information, what are some of the methods that we have?
Okay. The common methods.
As you classify them maybe in groups.
Yes, yes, okay. So I can classify them into some broad categories.
Right.
I can start with the oral methods, the ones that you take by mouth every day. Those ones, there are two main types. We have what we call the combined oral contraceptives. Now that consists of two different hormones which are normally produced in a woman's own body. If I can mention those names, it's estrogen and progesterone. Okay. Then there's another type of oral contraceptive which only contains one hormone. And we call that the mini pill. So most times people will know of the combined contraceptive and the mini pill. Those would be the oral contraceptives. Then there are other types of contraceptives. Most would be in the category of, for example, the injectable contraceptives. Then we also have the implantable ones, so what that is put inside the body. Now under that category we have the subdermal, means you put it under the skin. And then we also have the intrauterine contraception, which means it is put in the womb. Okay. Another type of contraceptive we have is the emergency contraceptive, the one that probably, remember most of these contraceptives, someone is taking before the possibility of them falling pregnant. But sometimes you can look for contraceptive after the chance of you falling pregnant has happened. So for example, we call that the morning after, usually in loose terminology. But the proper word is emergency contraception. So you're using it after the fact. Okay? And there are various types of those emergency contraception. And of course, we also have the barrier contraceptives, and these now include condoms, the male condom, also the female condom, and then we also have things like cervical caps and diaphragms, which now form a barrier and prevent, the egg to be fertilized. Yes.
There's one that is put on the hand. Which one? Where does it fall?
The one that is put on the hand is usually put on the arm, isn't it? And that one we call it the implantable, an implant. So it's an implantable contraceptive method.
It's a category on its own?
Yes, it's a category of its own. Because if you think about the implant, it is put under the skin. And then we also have the other one that I'd mentioned, the intrauterine devices, which are also put into the body, but now it is put in the womb. So one type can be put under the skin, we call that the implant. The other type can be put into the woman's womb. So those would be implantable contraceptives.
Before we even get to at what age one should start using contraceptives or one should start using family planning, then the question would be, in regards to these categories that you've taken us through, which would be the best category, or does it differ based on an individual?
Yes, we say that one size does not fit all. Okay? So what may be best for one lady might not be the best for the next lady. So to choose the best contraceptive method for a particular person, physicians or doctors would want to know more about this person. If they have any other conditions, for example, if they have high blood pressure, if they have other medical conditions like diabetes, and then based on a person's medical status, you will find that the best type of contraception will vary, also based on their age, also based on their body size. So the short answer to that question is that the best contraception will depend on the circumstances of the person who's using the contraception.
All right. Before we even finish, there's someone asking a question here. Says, where then does the likes of vasectomy and all these for family planning methods for men fall?
Okay. So the ones I had mentioned before, those are reversible contraceptives. So everything we've discussed up to this point is a reversible form of contraceptive. That means when you stop using it, then you have the ability to conceive once again. However, we also have what we call permanent methods. Now, we usually will not say that is contraception, we will say that is sterilization. And sterilization means it's a permanent form of preventing the chance of falling pregnant. And for men, that includes vasectomy. And for women, it includes what we call tubal ligation. So the fallopian tubes get sealed, and that will be a permanent way. So it's not something you can usually do, but it's also a form of preventing pregnancy.
Freezing eggs. Expand more on that.
Freezing eggs is a new method nowadays that has become available to women. And the whole concept of freezing eggs is to say a woman maybe is not ready to conceive or get a baby at a certain point in her life. And we know medically that as women grow older, the quality of their eggs starts to decline. So what has happened nowadays that is available is that when a woman is still relatively young, she can have her eggs harvested or removed from her body. Some eggs, not all of them, just a number, a few of them. And then those can be frozen commercially for her to use at a later date. And the thinking is that whenever she's ready to fall pregnant in the future, instead of her falling pregnant with the eggs that she currently has that will be the same age as her, she can use the so-called frozen eggs, which will be kept relatively at the state they were when they were harvested.
Right.
The thinking is...
All right. Well, I know there's so much that we'd want to pick on just understanding the methods that are available, but then that would block us from addressing other key issues, within the presence of time. So let's pick a different look on this. And we've talked about the methods. We've seen what is available. Then one would want to ask themselves that, well, apart from the fact that yes, you can prevent yourself from getting pregnant, what are some of these positive beats of having family planning or getting up a family planning method? Because this is getting common by the day. Sometimes you get to hospital and even before you call for this or ask for this, you are advised to take that direction. So before we get to the side effects, what are the good effects of this?
Okay, good. It's a good question that you've asked. Now, contraceptive, its main purpose is to prevent pregnancy. However, we have what we call the non-contraceptive benefits of using contraception. Commonly here we are referring to probably the oral contraceptive pill, the combined pill, the common one that people use every day. Some of the benefits of contraception, aside from preventing pregnancy, can be correction of acne, for example. So there are some women, some ladies who, suffer with acne breakouts, and it has been seen that the hormones, remember we said the combined pill contains hormones, those hormones can help regulate the skin texture, improve acne. It has also been shown to improve, for example, some ladies might have excessive growth on their hair or hair on their face. We call that hirsutism. Contraceptives can help to control that as well.
Well, that's amazing.
Another thing that contraceptives are good at helping, for example, Another thing they help in regulating, especially the ladies who have very heavy periods. Okay?
Yeah.
So for women who have heavy cycles, and sometimes this can even cause a condition known as anemia, where you have low blood levels in your body.
Yeah.
Usually the contraceptives will reduce the amount of bleeding and also help to correct conditions like anemia that someone may have. So we recommend it for women who have problematic heavy bleeding. Contraceptives can also benefit those ladies or women who have painful periods. So you find that sometimes every month someone is, for example, bedridden or very uncomfortable due to pain that comes with the period. Now, contraceptives can help with reducing that pain. So we've prescribed them commonly to help that. And lastly, the benefits are many, but we'll just try and summarize them.
Yeah.
It has also been shown that you can reduce the risk of cancer, some type of cancers, this contraceptive, specifically cancer of the womb, okay?
Yeah.
And cancer of ovaries, which are common cancers in women. You hear people saying they have cancer of the ovaries, which is now where the eggs are stored, or they develop cancer of the womb. So using these contraceptives can reduce the chances of getting those type of cancers.
Well, that's amazing. Now let's cross over to the side effects of it. I think most of the people should be celebrating by now, listening to all these great effects that family planning methods can bring. But equally, a fair share of negatives, and in most cases, people have argued actually, or this is the picture that has been painted out here, that the benefits are by far outweighed by the negatives.
Well, that is not 100% correct to say that the negatives are more than the benefits. Remember, we've said that every woman should be assessed individually because, yes, there are side effects to some forms of contraception. So generally, let's mention them. One common side effect is especially, and this will depend on the type of contraceptive being used. Okay? So if we start with the oral contraceptives, a side effect they can have is they can increase the risk of developing a blood clot, which is a very serious side effect.
Right.
Okay? So we usually avoid giving that type of contraceptive to women who we know have a high risk of getting blood clot. So that means older women, women who smoke, women who have other medical conditions. We usually do not want to give them that type of contraceptive because we don't want them to get blood clots. So that's a serious one, which can be fatal sometimes. Other side effects that are there is sometimes it can also cause, depending on the form of contraceptive one is using, it can disturb their cycle. We said that one of the benefits is to reduce someone's heavy periods, but also on the flip side, some contraceptives can alter a woman's cycle, and she can have what we call irregular bleeding or spotting. So some women will find that very bothersome, depending on the type of contraceptive they are using. Other times we've had that contraceptives, maybe like the injectable one, the 3-month injectable contraception, might cause someone to have increased body weight. So there's weight gain, and some people may not want that. So they view it negatively. And sometimes also contraceptions may alter someone's general mood and psyche. So you find it increases mood swings or irritability.
Which ends at some point, or cuts across all the duration that you have put there, because some of the people who have these contraceptive methods for years,
Most of the time, these side effects happen at the onset of using that method. And that is the most important time, because when you've just started using it, if you experience those side effects, most people now abandon that method of contraception. But it's a good question you've asked, because the side effects do not last commonly throughout the duration of use. Most of them happen at the onset. And if people are able to persevere through the early stages, usually you find that the body adapts and those side effects tend to fade away.
Okay.
So most of the side effects I've mentioned are the ones that you would find commonly happen at the onset of using that method.
So at what point then should one realize that, there is need to probably change the method, and maybe this method is not working? Because then I would want to believe that will be instigated with the kind of side effects. So should we give it time, or almost instantly when, it is not working well, you lose and probably try a different one?
What we recommend is to give it at least a couple of months.
Okay.
Because if you abandon it immediately, you might find that the next one you use will give you also a side effect which you'll also abandon immediately, and you'll find that maybe none is appropriate for yourself.
Yeah.
So we advise that as long as the side effect is not a serious one, like we said, remember the risk of developing a clot.
Yeah.
That one we do not take chances with. So we would not even put somebody on that contraception to begin with.
Okay.
But the other ones that I've mentioned, usually like irregular spotting or some mood swings here and there, we usually say give it a couple of months, 2 months or so. And if you feel that 2 months later you're not tolerating these side effects very well, then you can consider using an alternative.
So let's speak about the durations again. For how long can one have it? And can you say have it for about 5 years and immediately lose this one and get another one and have another duration like for 5 years or 10 years? And what would be the effects of the same?
Okay. Now, that's a good question. We can divide contraceptives broadly into what we call long-acting,
accredited by the Ministry of Education and relevant professional regulatory bodies. The college located
the short-acting ones are, for example, the pill that someone would take every day. That means if you stop taking it today, by tomorrow the effectivity has almost gone.
Yeah.
Okay? So those ones are only effective as long as you are taking them. And usually you can take for as long as you want.
Yeah.
Then we have the long-acting ones. For example, the intrauterine device or the implant that is put in the womb. We have two types. One that is based on copper, which can last up to 10 years. Okay?
Yeah.
And like you say, if someone wants to renew it at the expiry of the duration, you can insert another one immediately.
Doctor, allow me to catch your line of thought. Just briefly, we'll come back to that. Let's pick this phone call. Good morning.
Yes. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine.
Welcome to the discussion. What do you have to say?
I was just asking about the planning.
Sorry?
Huh? I'm fine. I was just asking from that method of family planning emergency contraceptive. Nauliza swali.
Yes, I'm trying to get you very well. I don't know whether Daktari has been able to hear that.
Yes.
I think I could hear something about emergency.
Can you ask the question again, please?
Nauliza.
Nakusikia?
Nauliza. Hello?
Nakusikia, endelea.
Nasema kwa hizo metodi za family planning nilikuwa na swali kwa hizo emergency contraceptive.
Okay.
Uliza, daktari anakusikia.
Kwa hiyo metodi emergency contraceptive za family
Au swali lako ni gani? To hold, it wasn't very clear, but it's something to do with planning or pills. So I hope she would call back. And yes, Dr. Let's go back to where we left it.
Okay. I'll assume that what she was asking, maybe she might be able to call back and ask the question again.
Yeah.
But it's a common thing that people would want to know.
Yeah.
The emergency family planning. What is the time limit within which you can use it, for example?
Yeah.
So we usually say it is most effective 24 hours after the incident. Okay?
Yeah.
Most of them can be used up to 3 days. Then they're relatively effective up to 3 days after. But with every passing day, the effectiveness of the emergency contraception reduces. So it is most effective 24 hours later.
Yeah.
However, you can use it up to 3 days after, especially for this, what we call the P2, or the morning after, the common one that is sold in the pharmacies without a prescription.
We have another phone call from Meru, just briefly, Dr. because yes, people have lots of questions. Good morning.
Morning too.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I would like to know at what age can a woman start using that contraceptives or an injection?
All right, thank you. And I think, Dr. this also my question, at what point then? Because nowadays we see mommies introducing their kids to that because there's that fear, oh, she's going to get pregnant. So we need to protect us as early as possible from that caller. So yes, I think we'll go step by step.
Okay. Now, contraception should be introduced as long as there's a risk of falling pregnant and someone does not want to fall pregnant. Okay? So, like you said, some mothers would want to their daughters to be on contraception.
Yeah.
Now, this has to be looked at in context. Because we also know that some forms of sexual activity are not legal in this country. So you need to look at the circumstances of the situation, and then you can make an assessment. Is this person who is, for example, underage, below 18, are they in a legally accepted form of relationship, or is it an illegal form?
But what are the ultimate effects, Dr. And I'll ask this for the sake of all the girls out there. Some of them would want the same because, well, truth is that they are actively involved, or they are active on matters intercourse, and we cannot overlook that. But also there's that fear. I don't know whether it's true or it's a myth, that, you know, there are long-term effects to that, you know, when you take after pills for a long time, or when you take these general pills for a long time, or when you have implant, you know, and by the time you're getting to that point where you want to get babies, you're not able to get babies. Or if you have to get babies, then it will take a while. Some of them will come, some of them will be born with, you know, defects and, you know, all this.
Yes. Well, like you said, it is a common conception that exists out there in the public. I would want to dispel a lot of those ideas, okay? Those, we call them misconceptions. So, if you use contraception at an early age, in your adolescent years, or even in adulthood, it does not have any long-term side effects to you and your reproductive ability later on. The contraceptive per se.
We have very many calls, Dr. And we've picked another question still in relation to that. Should this answer this question that there's a lady who says she's been on injectables for a while, then she stopped, and for a long time she's not been able to get her periods. One, are there likelihoods that she's going to get another baby in the event that she wants one? And for how long would that take? And would it have an effect in any way?
The injectable contraception, the 3 monthly injectable contraception, it has been shown that after use of that method for a prolonged period of time, usually more than 2 years continuously, there is a risk of delayed return to fertility. What does that mean? It means if you've been using the injectable contraception for a number of years and you stop it, you might not be able to fall pregnant the day you stop using that injection. It might take a month or two, or sometimes longer, to fall pregnant. And we call that delay of return to fertility. It's not permanent. So it's not that now you can never fall pregnant again. There's a slight delay, especially for the 3-month injection contraception. It does not seem to be the same with other methods. So other methods, as soon as you stop them, you fall pregnant soon afterwards. But the 3-month injection might have that delay.
Well answered right there. There is another gentleman who's asking, like he's had an experience with a wife who had, 3 months contraceptive or 3 months family planning, and looks like the lady lost sexual desire. Could there be a possibility that this could bring such an effect? And also she started experiencing painful periods. What would you tell this gentleman?
That is something that we have experienced, that some forms of contraception, if we can recap what we had said, they can cause some mood changes. Some can, especially the ones that contain progesterone. So that would be like the 3-month injection or the mini pill, what we call the mini pill, which is the type of pill that you take every day but only has one hormone. So those two types that we've mentioned sometimes tend to reduce a woman's libido, that is her sexual desire, for some women, not all women. And that might cause maybe family or difficulties between two partners, because if the libido is reduced, someone may not want to initiate intimacy, and that is one of the side effects, yes, that can happen with this method. With those two methods.
There are lots of questions coming on board. I think this will be the last one we'll pick in the interest of time. Then we'll allow you to give your number so all these people can contact and get information from you. So there's a mother who is asking, her 22-year-old has been on Peroxica or has been using Peroxica. She would want to know whether this has got any side effects or what could be the long-term side effects, if any, or if it's a good method.
Oh, the girl is 22 years old. Okay.
Yes.
So if there are no, what we would say is that there are no long-term, as long as she does not have current side effects right now. When she stops using this method, she should not expect to have any long-lasting side effects. So if it is working for her, she should continue using it, and she should not be too much concerned about what will happen after she stops using it.
Sorry, and I think I'll shelve my own questions, including that one of, for breastfeeding moms. Immediately you're introduced to family planning, of what effect that would be, or whether it's going to help, or whether it's going to alter again the production of milk, and so much so. So as you answer that, please give us your number so that we'll have people calling you. And I'm hoping that we can have this session some other time.
Okay, well, that's fine. For women women who've just given birth, a lot of them are very interested in using a form of contraception so that they're able to have enough time to raise the child that they have just delivered. With that said, there are types of contraception that are not good to use immediately after delivering. And those are, like, let's say, the combined oral contraception. Any contraceptive method that has the hormone estrogen will not be good immediately after birth, because we've shown that reduces the quality and the amount of breast milk. So after delivery, a woman should stick either to a non-hormonal method of contraception, or if it is hormonal, it should only contain the one hormone, which we call progesterone, which can be used after delivery. So that would include the mini pill, like we had mentioned earlier, and also the 3-month injection. Those only contain one hormone, and they are safe for breastfeeding, and to avoid any contraceptive method that has estrogen, because that will reduce milk supply and also the milk quality for the newborn infant.
Thank you so much, Daktari. I'll be unfair to you and fair to myself because then due to public demand, we are supposed to have this session again. So I'll make it easy for you to come over again, and I'll tell the viewer to take advantage of the numbers that are running down on your screen, especially the SMS short code that is 22047 and hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV47KE. Drop those comments or the questions that you have for Daktari, and then I'll put them in order and a purpose to have Daktari again. Who knows, even tomorrow, if at all, he's going to give us that leeway, and then we get to have this session as you ask all these questions. And later on, we'll also be running his numbers down on the screen so you can extensively consult on that very note. Because of the interest of time, Daktari, we might not be able to expound some more on the same, but we have to say thank you so much this morning for the great insights and for the numerous feedback from the viewer. Dr. George Mukaya, gynecologist, thank you so much. We get to see you again at some other time, and equally for the viewer, we meet again tomorrow. My name is Linda Alela. That's where we get to wind up Morning Cafe.